Past players, past legends, past legends.
Welcome aboard. We have privilege to have Roger Woodcock on our show tonight. Woody, the casual, 267 games, 602 goals, highest non-goal scoring non-full forward in South Australian history. Welcome aboard, Woody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us, mate. We'll start off. Where did you start playing your juniors? With a school footy or for a junior footy club?
No, I never played for a junior footy club. I basically played for Norwood High School right through my junior footy. And probably when I was doing leaving, I had a few games with the under-17s. There was back then. And then I think I just played the one sort of half a dozen games. And then the following year, I went into under-19s because back then they had it was called Colts and the Thirds. So I had 2 years of under-19 footy before the end of that season, my second season in under-19s, I went up to the reserves and then the league for the last couple of games.
Who did you debut against?
Sorry, what was that?
Who did you debut against for your first league game?
My first league game was at the last two league games of 69, and I debuted against West Adelaide. And I remember I was a skinny little 19-year-old, and there was a bloke coming back. I can't remember his first name, but he was a big mountain of a man, Hewitt, and he's coming back from about 3 weeks suspension from belting a guy. So that was a good intro.
Oh, wow.
Now, you debuted the same day as your great mate, the late Glenn Rosso?
Yeah, we did. We were both playing under-19s, and as you know, Glenn was from Port Elliot, and staying at Carmel Court in the country. Sort of boys are all staying there. So Glenn and I were playing thirds together, and then we unexpectedly got promoted to reserves, and then even more unexpectedly got promoted to the league side the last two games. So yeah, Glenn and I started off together.
We had some great players come out of Norwood High too, Pete.
Absolutely.
Roger Woodcock, Neil Craig, Jim Teal, Danny Jenkins, Greg Turnbull, David Palm, Malcolm Ashwood. So, yeah, there are some.
Definitely.
You were waiting for that, weren't you, Woody?
Yeah, no, there was some good breeding ground. And as you'd expect, the Norwood High School, quite close to the Norwood Oval, Norwood District. So, not even before, in the 50s and 60s, there were some wonderful players that had come out of there for sure. A great breeding ground. And as you know, school footy back then was very, very strong, very strong.
We still got to get around you, me and Bruce Winter with picking that best Norwood High side. We still haven't done yet, Woody. So then you debuted under obviously Robert Odie. Robert Odie's effect on you and his emphasis on the skills.
Yeah, look, he was an absolutely fantastic coach and probably ahead of his time. Some of our skill training under Robert was just fantastic. I was only used to sort of doing a bit of circle work. A lot we all weren't doing that, a few run-throughs, but some of the skill work that Robert had for us was just fantastic. And he quickly developed skills of a lot of us young guys. And I think, that was the forerunner to sort of, a couple of premierships I was lucky enough to play in the 70s, but Robert was instrumental in he was a teacher by trade. He was a teacher of football skills, and no doubt about that, he was a fantastic coach. I got a lot out of him, a lot of respect for RO for sure. He's certainly the reason I began there at Norwood.
What was your first thoughts when a certain Phil Carman arrived on the scene, Woody?
For a start, I just couldn't believe how fit an individual could be. He was just unbelievably fit, and we thought we were, reasonably fit, but he was twice as fit as us. He used to just run everywhere, every day. We just run when we had to, when we go out to training. But where he was staying up in the Carmel Court, and I think that helped the Carmel Court boys too, because they all went out running with him, and Craigie especially, and those sort of guys. And I think even Winnie used to go out running with him for probably about half a K, and then he gave up. It was too hard.
He
was amazing. And as far as his footy ability, I still think, probably I think he's probably one of the best footballers I've seen, just his natural ability. But, as we all know, his temperament probably waned a bit. Put it this way, if he had a temperament like a Barry Robin or a Russell Edmond, he would have been right up there with them.
Well, that's always been my thoughts, Woody. I've always said Phil Carman is the only player I consider the equal of Barry Robin re-pure ability, but unfortunately White Line Fever ruined that. I've always had that opinion.
Yeah. And looking back, I think he'd probably be a little bit disappointed with his whole career overall with what he did. He should have, with his fitness level and all that sort of gear, he should have been a 300-plus game player with all the accolades coming towards him. But unfortunately, I think his temperament just got the better of him, and he just couldn't help himself at times. He got himself into a lot of strife, unfortunately.
That Carmel Court crew that you talk about there, we've had Winnie talk about the names that came out of there. Did that help you guys, obviously being the locals and helping the country guys out through Carmel Court there? Did it sort of create a bond that is unbreakable at stages?
Well, it certainly created a bond with all the country boys, and no doubt about that. And maybe some of us city boys might have got a bit of our nose out of joint, a little bit. But I know Glenn and I have had a bit of a talk about this, many years later, sort of thing. And he felt that there was a little bit of, particularly in the juniors. I don't think it was an issue once you get into senior football. But I think when we were playing under 19s, there was a little bit of, he's from the country and he's getting looked after up in Carmel Court. Yeah. There might have been that bit, but I think once, those guys got into senior football, that was never an issue at all. Never. No, it was a good establishment, and it went for all those years, and certainly brought the best out of all those guys. Yeah, that was terrific. Run by Phil Carman's mother for many years.
Yeah,
yep.
Annie, and of course, I scored for Kenzie as a kid, Kenzie Cricket Club back then, and it used to be Fabulous Phil, Neil Craig, and Robert Odie training on the hockey oval, and then if there were days when Ross Dillon was playing cricket for Kenzie, more of the guys would be out there. And you're right, it was just amazing. You just have your jaw on the floor watching Carman and Craig, that they were the two fittest footballers in the country, and they were both playing for us. It was incredible.
And don't forget, Craig was probably only about 15 then.
Yes, he was incredible.
He was about 5 years younger than all the other boys staying there, because he came down from York at 14 or 15 years of age. Yeah, pretty amazing.
Phil Carman actually even held athletic records at Pembroke for 30-odd years, and there's always been the comment made with people high up in athletics, we're not talking just an opinion of here and there, that believed that Phil could have medalled in the decathlete as a decathlete. So we'll never know as well.
Yeah, I've no doubt of that, because he could certainly leap and do all those sort of things. Yeah, yep, for sure.
So moving back to your career, mate. Obviously debuted in '69, 1970. How many games did you end up playing?
Oh, I think I played most of them. Probably, at least maybe 20. I don't really know. And then probably 20.
And then obviously by 1971, leading goal kicker, mate, a mercurial left footer.
Yeah, got a few goals that year in 71. That was and Norwood we were just under RO. We were just starting to, take shape, and we had a couple of senior blokes like Winnie and those sort of guys that certainly helped us, and so we were just starting to gradually claw our way up. We'd been bottom, and when RO took over in certainly 68, maybe even 69 when I first began. But then, the next year we just got 1970. I think 71 we drew with Port Adelaide down at Alberton, and that cost us probably fourth spot by about less than a percent, from, if I can remember. Yeah, geez, a long time ago. So and so 72. Then we played in a semi-final against Centrals. So we were just starting to move a bit.
And we didn't have much luck in that final against North in 73, where Nigel Walk kicked out on the full and it hit the wall and rebounded straight to Barry Stringer. The free kick against Staz when he was in front for hanging on. As you can see, I don't
Well,
hold a grudge whatsoever either, would he?
Yeah, and I remember that ball bounced off the wall straight to Barry Stringer, and it should have been, he should have had to go back and take his kick, but for some reason the umpire let it play on, and Stazzers got called out a bit, and bang, and finally ball went back to centre, bloody siren went, and so we were under a goal. Who knows what would have happened if we played in the grand final, that, and who knows what would have happened
with RO. Yeah.
If we know what would have happened with RO, because I think the reason came out inability to win a premiership or something like that. I can't remember now, but I thought it was pretty harsh actually. But that certainly caused the ruckus of the sacking of Robert Odie, that's for sure.
And then the arrival of Bob Hammond, mate.
Yeah. Well, a bit chalk and cheese between Robert Odie and Robert Hammond. I mean, Robert, as I said before, was a pure teacher of the football skills, where Bob Hammond was more. He got the best out of us. He knew he had a side that had all the skills, and by that time Ross Dillon had joined us, so there's more experience, and also I think Rodney Pope and Greg Nicholson had joined us.
Yep.
So all of a sudden we've got a few 100-game players in there, and Bob knew that there was plenty of skill there. He just needed to, I think, bring that extra bit out of us, and I think that's what Bob supplied. He brought that extra 10 or 20%, whatever you need to win finals. He certainly brought that out of all of us guys. And I guess my game changed under him. Robert Odie told me I was never to fly for an overhead mark. And so for 5 years, I never did.
Yeah.
He said, your position's on the ground, and all the other big guys, fly for the ball. We use your kicking ability on the ground. And I never used to chase a halfback flanker. If he wanted to wander off, I'd let him go. I'd wait for the turnover, Ash.
Nothing wrong with that, Woody.
Easy one out the back.
But you couldn't do that under Bob Hammond.
No.
If if they had the ball and you didn't defend, you wouldn't last long. So I certainly changed. I went for more marks and all that sort of gear, and I think Bob Hammond developed me into a better player, a more all-round player as far as my defensive side of the game. I didn't have a defensive bone in my body for the first 5 years, but that certainly changed under Bob Hammond.
It actually probably 75. On to 75, and I reckon the prelim final in terms of individual games in Norwood Footy Club's history gets forgotten a little bit, where Greg Turnbull 6 goals in the 75 against Cunningham and Cale.
Yep.
And best on ground by the length of the Flemington Straight. People just still don't realise it with Turbs either.
Yeah. He was just so courageous, so gutsy. We all know that. But we had some good success against Port in preliminary finals.
Yes.
At the time that I played, there was at least 3, I think we won against them in those years. 2 or 3. But that would have hurt them. The old rivalry, Norwood and Port, it's fantastic. Always has been, always will be.
Yeah, I was about to say it's still as strong today as it ever has been.
I think so, yeah. And
it's just different.
The guys that come into the club, whether they're quite new, it doesn't take them long to know the history about what Norwood v Port is all about. That's for sure. So
in that year, you lost your first 2 games, but then went on a bit of a winning streak of 16 games.
Yeah, that was 1975. In fact, Ashley probably knows this. That record probably still exists. The most number of winning games in a row for Norwood, and particularly at Norwood Oval. Mm-hmm. I think that still stands.
Yeah, I think so. It got close under Bass with that, but I think that's still I think it's still in front. I will double check that out. Actually, interestingly, we'll do that.
That's why it's really interesting. We won all those games and including beating the Bays that year. This is 75, my first premiership, and the club's first for, as everyone knows, 25 years. And we were quite, as a group, we were quite astounded that they were absolutely almost raging red-hot favourites in the grand final. And we'd beat them during the year. Sure, they smashed us in the second semi, but we still felt confident. We could handle them in the grand final. So I just remember. And I don't know if people will know this, but in 19 leading up to the grand final, all the stuff in the paper was all Glenelg.
Yeah,
Photos, articles, everything, and that was done for a reason. Bob Hammond and Wally Miller came to said, right, there will be no interviews. I was asked to go by on Barry Ian's show, with Peter Plus.
Yep.
And on a Friday morning, no, that got ruled out. That got cancelled. So the only staged photo we had was Graham Dunstan sitting in Premier Don Dunstan's chair on I think it was a photo Saturday morning of the grand final. That was the only staged publicity shot of that whole week. And so every time you picked up a paper or heard the radio, it was all Glenelg. And I know as a player that was really pissing me off, and that's what it was. And that's what it was designed for. We were sort of really motivated by Bob Hammond. His the Friday night at his place before the grand final was just fantastic, really good. The way that he motivated us. We were so confident when we ran out. We knew it'd be a tough game, and in the end it was. It was only. Was it 9 goals to 7 goals or something?
Nine goals 10 to 7 goals 10. Yep.
Yeah, it was always going to be a tough game with the defence on both sides were pretty good and on top. So it was a dour game, but we just knew we had the commitment to take. And I reckon they might have been a little bit complacent. I heard Cornsey mention that many years later that they might have, just got a bit complacent, a bit ahead of themselves, and maybe that was due to all their publicity they got leading up to that week. It was just a matter of them running out and knocking us over like they did in the second semi.
Yeah, I could never work that out. Okay, Staz had got injured in the prelim, so he was an important out. But we had won 16 in a row, and I'm sitting there going, this is a 50-50 game. And the way it was created, you would have thought that we were bottom and Glenelg were top. It was bizarre how much they were favourites. And okay,
we knew we were a good side.
Oh, bloody oath!
And they were too. Too. So as you said, it's all grand finals. We know they're 50-50, and that's been proven over the journeys. Quite often, the underdog gets up.
Now, Pete,
I reckon we should never have been underdogs that day. Opinion.
Yeah, as I said, I think it should have been a toss of the coin. Now, Pete, there was a very significant happening on that day, on that grand final. Woody kicked one of his 8 right foot goals in the grand final.
Here we go.
Yeah, read it off hands on the right foot. Mind you, Jimmy Lawson was right on my hammer. All I could do was throw it on my right foot. I couldn't do anything else. So I was a bit lucky, but we'll take it. Because there weren't many goals that day.
It's been a bit of a standard joke with Woody that every time I found one of his right foot goals somewhere on YouTube or footy, I'd find it and send it through to Woody, and he'd go, bloody hell, where did you find that? And I'd go, I think I've only got 2 to go now, Woody. It became like a homework assignment.
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon you've got 4 of them on video somewhere, actually, haven't you?
So,
bit like Kevin Bartlett's handball. There's not too many handballs. You mentioned that you got together the Friday night before the grand final. Was that just a bit of a barbie and a get-together for everybody to calm the nerves a bit?
No, that was just the 20 players.
Yep.
20 players and the coach, yep. And, the Friday night at Bob's place at Walkerville there. And, we went in his back room out there and had our team meeting and who was doing what and who's standing who and got through all that and so on and so forth. And it was very good. And from memory, we never did that too often.
Yeah.
But obviously, being the first grand final we'd been in for 25 years, then Bob obviously thought it's pretty special and we need to really get focused. And we were anyway. When you got guys like Winnie and Dillo and those sort of senior players, it was good. Yep.
And afterwards, obviously relief, but just excitement. It was our first flag in 25, as we said, in 25 years. Just your memories of that night and that week, Woody.
Well, it's a long time ago, Ash.
I know that, but you know what I mean.
It's a bit hard to. Can I just tell you one little story that it will stay with me until the time I fall off the perch? Is that my father saw the 1950 grand final premiership.
Yep.
And I was 1 month old. And the next one he sees, I'm playing in it.
Yeah.
And he got down to the rooms, and which I'm glad they let him in.
Yep.
And it was just unbelievable, emotional with we're not real big huggers of the Woodcock family, but on this particular night and day, it was fantastic. And I still remember, as young as Neil Craig was, he's probably only 19 or 20.
Yeah, 19.
He came up to the two of us and hugged us, and he looked at my dad and he said, "We did it for you, Mr. Woody."
Yeah.
And I've never ever forgotten that. I've often mentioned that to Craig. He can't remember saying it, but I've never forgotten that. And then you go out and see, my two brothers played in the 60s.
Yep.
Not and hardly any success. So they were pretty emotional, like we all were. And then from memory, I think we went back to Walker's Arms or somewhere for a tea, and we didn't get back to Norwood Oval about 9. And then, you were there actually on the western stand.
I was only 12, but my parents wouldn't let me go. Do you think I've still got the I'll get over that. And 1978, of all schools, Norwood High program a school camping grand final week.
That's right.
Do you think I haven't half still got a grudge over that one, Woody?
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's the only Norwood flag I've never seen. Yeah.
God. Wow.
It was in the Flinders, and when we won, I got thrown in this river and got up with a scarf, holding the scarf above my head, obviously, and I do remember how freaking cold it was.
Yeah. Wow.
But getting back to the after the 75 up the club, because the Redlegs Club was in full swing then.
Yeah.
Because that got built in whenever it was, 70, 71 or something. So that was in full swing, and you can imagine what that was like, packed. And I remember the crowd was, I don't know, it must have been 5,000 there in front of the Western Stand, filling half of Norwood Oval up. It was an exciting time, that's for sure.
Then we move on. So 76 a little bit disappointing, and 77, and then the build up for our centenary year in 78, where we recruited pretty heavily. The argy bargy over Brian Adamson, we eventually get him over the line, and full credit to Glenn McMahon and Wally and all that for that eventually happening, because there were plenty of times when it didn't look like it had happened. And then through we get beaten in the final. Then again, another prelim final where we beat Port. Through to the grand final. And just that day, as you know, we all 16-15 to 14-26. Any good Norwood supporter remembers that to the nth degree.
And every supporter will remind us of it.
1 point in mind, and even I still may have brought that up last Friday night.
We might not be welcome at Sturt if we keep on our way here, but hey, it's all good.
It was only banter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and we were lucky enough that Sturt kicked for goal terribly. Because they were an incredible side that year. They only lost one game against West Adelaide for the season. But, memories of that day as well, Woody, and we could probably go on for that for ages.
I still vividly remember that day, and I'll tell you why. Sure, we probably should have been 10 goal behind it, whatever. But, at three-quarter time, and as a player, you don't remember too much of what coaches say or anything like that over a period of. But to this day, actually, and I think I've talked to you about this, that rev up that Bob Hammond gave us at three-quarter time was absolutely instrumental in us getting over the line, and I won't forget it, because we were 5 goals down, just hanging around, sort of, they were helping us by their bad kicking, and I remember going into the three-quarter time, and Hamo strode out, and he just looked at all of us. He went a 360 circle, and he said, if any guy here thinks that we cannot win this game, then F off, sort of thing. Oh, straight away he's got our attention. And then he went on about how fit we were. They're unfit. Look at them all with he wheeled off half a dozen guys that had their socks down. And he said, and I remember this, he said, when we kick the first 3 goals, not if, when we kick the first 3 goals, we'll run over the top of these bars. Well, out we, and I reckon when we went out, I reckon there were 21 guys that thought we could win that. That's 20 players and Bob. And we kicked those first 3 goals. All of a sudden, game on. We're only 2 behind. And what a lot of people don't don't remember is that we kicked 7-5 that last quarter.
Yeah, and we actually hit the front.
Stormed home.
Yeah, we hit the front. We hit the front a reasonable way out, and then we missed a couple where we could have easily gone seven, a couple of goals up, and we actually might have ended up running right away. But we did run. We did run all over them.
Yeah, we just proved that we were pretty fit that day, and once again, I think another side probably might have been a bit complacent, and their bad kicking certainly helped us. But everyone goes on about that. The mark that was given to Gags, but we ran over the top of that. And you mentioned before about Brian Adamson. He might have only played for us for 1.5 seasons, but wow, what a game he played! Centre-half forward, 5 goals, outstanding. He was fantastic.
I reckon there's another thing there, another part of that day which isn't really known, and we can be probably still a little bit careful about it. But a certain Sturt player may have kept Michael Kingo Taylor waiting for over an hour down on a farm as captain, and Kingo to this day still it's probably had steam out of his ears. And if there was the Jack Odie medal back then, Kingo wins it in 78 and 80 without a doubt. And Baggy didn't help himself with that big time.
No, he certainly got Kingo a bit rolled up to sort of. To have a photo taken, then you've got to walk a bloody kilometre out to his tractor on the farm. Yeah, Kingo wasn't impressed. Well, not impressed, and he's still dirty to this day.
And it takes a fair bit to rile Kingo too, just quietly. So
amazing.
Yes.
So hey, can we just back up a little bit to 70?
Hang on, Mark, can I hardly hear you?
Sorry.
That's it.
Yep, got you. Can we back up a little bit to 78, where you pumped Carlton by 106 points?
What a great night that was too.
Yeah, that's
considering Carlton are coming to town this week, so I thought I'd chuck that one in. And I'm a Blues supporter, so I want to hear what you guys did to Carlton in 78.
Yeah, that was and
76.
Norwood Oval full. Yeah. Oh, that was there must have been 15,000 there on I don't know what night it was. I think it was a weeknight actually.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night, and one of the things that we did. Yeah, that was actually when did we when did we put the stuff under their eyes? Is that the art of stuff?
Yeah, that was then. And
what we did with early
swap the numbers.
We changed our numbers.
Yes.
So all the forward line, 6 of us in the forward line, we all swapped our Guernseys because we knew that Carlton would just memorise. They'd go number 10, Woodcock, left footer, Well, I was wearing number.
I reckon you were 9. I reckon 9 or 11. You were either wore. I know.
I think it was 9. 9 I was wearing. I think.
Yeah.
And
brilliant
then,
tactic.
Winnie was another number, and I can't even remember the numbers now. But all 6 of us changed it, and also at the first bounce, we all 6 of us gathered at centre half forward. We didn't go to the 6 spots that you had back then. We all just gathered at centre half forward, and then when the ball was bounced, we went our several ways. And I think the ball was we got the first centre bounce, and when he kicked the point, he should have got the goal, but that would have been a good start. But so they didn't really know what was going on for probably a quarter.
What a tactic!
That was a good ploy by Bob Hammond.
I still love the commentary in that game too, where
can't hear you, miss that.
I still love the commentary in that game too, where Norwood taking it right up to Carlton, and then Neil Keeler goes, "Of course they are, they're a good side." And then when we're about 15 goals up the last quarter, Keels just suddenly goes, "Norwood still taking it right up to Carlton."
we were 10 up at half time.
Yeah, we absolutely creamed them, and then. I think the forgotten premiership to some extent at Norwood was the night premiership where we beat East Perth and all that. David Armour, Ross Glendenning, Kelly, McCowcheck, they had Melrose. They had a very strong side, and that was a great game that night. Trevor Sapwell's finest hour.
Yeah, they did have a good side, didn't they? I remember those names. Yeah, Glendenning, he was a bloody big man. Yep. Yeah, no, they were good wins against interstate side like that. Yeah, yep.
And then we moved through to 1980 and 80, where we we came through and, geez, we nearly pinched it against one of the great Port sides. Let's not forget how good that Port side was with, Mark Williams, Greg Phillips, Tim Evans, like that, a really strong spine. And Kingo, to Russell's credit too, Russell admitted that was the biggest pants-down job he ever got in his career, where Kingo was just incredible that day. And we very nearly got over the line against one of, as I said, a great Port side.
If we'd had Hugo Colasanti, we would have won that.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. He was an outstanding ruck that year, and then he sliced his finger off a week before the grand final. It worked excellent. So we went in with very, very depleted ruck, and he was had a great year, and he would have carried the rucks for us. And I've got no doubt that I reckon we would have just about won that. And I remember that 1980 was the first year that Channel 2 televised it nationally. And it was a really good game of footy too.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to 4 points, 20-minute mark of the last quarter, but it was a bloody hot day. It was about 29 degrees, and we'd come from fifth.
Yes.
So we were cooked a little bit, and they just had a bit more juice than us in the end. So, but yeah, it was a pretty good game of footy though.
And was that the first year that Neil Balmer arrived?
Yep.
Correct.
Was.
Yep. And when he arrived, we lost our first 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, shit, this is going to be a bloody long year. And anyway, we started to string a few together, and I think it might have been the second to last game we snuck into the 5. So we went from 5th to almost first, but not quite.
Yes,
that was Barmy's first year. And
we beat Torrens in the elimination. I think the first semi, and then Port in the prelim. First semi. Struggling. I'm embarrassed, Woody, on this one. Trying to remember who we beat in the first semi.
We've stumped you.
I'm not happy with myself.
We'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
And obviously Neil Balm coming to the club there. What did he bring compared to Bobby Hammond?
Well, it was a bit. It was quite refreshing actually, because Bob's a really tough, really hard taskmaster, and you didn't get a lot of praise for Bob. You're expected to do your job and all that sort of gear. And when Barmy came, he was just so enthusiastic. Being a young 27, 28-year-old coach, he was really, really enthusiastic with the caper, and he had a lot to learn. He admitted that himself. But when he said, we'll teach you.
Glenelg in the first semi too.
But he was a fantastic bloke, and just had a incredible presence about him. But he just enjoyed the way we were playing, and he encouraged that, and he was very enthusiastic with his praise for guys, and if they did a good job, whereas Bob was a bit the opposite. So that was a refreshing sort of change of coaching style. But I think he might have been a bit on the, I won't say soft side, but a bit. He could have been a bit harder on players, and maybe a few players took a few liberties. But I think and actually no better than that, because I'd finished by 81. I think he toughened up actually and started to be a bit harder on players and get the best out of them. Mind you, he loved to give a serve. I got on the end of one of his sprays half time, that's for sure.
Barmy admits that himself. He and I said, I've spoken about it at length with him, and he said, yeah, but, that was me. My strength was probably my weakness as well. So Barmy was always very open and honest about that as well. That's
human nature too, that when you come into a new environment, you don't want to upset too many people too soon. But once you start to get into it a bit, then you can let rip, as you said.
Yeah. No, he was... and as you know, he knows him better than me. He was just a terrific bloke, and every time he just loves Norwood.
Yes.
He can't wait to get back. When he comes back to Adelaide, he just loves getting out to Norwood. And it's great to see him. No, we've seen him a few times actually, haven't we, over the last couple of years with Hall of Fame stuff. When he got inducted in the Hall of Fame and all that, he was just gobsmacked.
Oh, he's very firm in pointing out that Norwood's is his club. Even
spiritual home.
Yeah, even interviewing him in Melbourne with the Adelaide Uni function a few weeks ago, and he had Richmond faithful there. They were sort of a few of them were a bit dumbfounded. With said one of the guys came up and said, "Geez, I didn't realise he had such a connection to Norwood and that." And I thought that was quite an interesting comment coming from a Richmond fanatic, that he'd actually picked it up. That there I am, probably knowing obviously Barmy's and heard Barmy and spoken about it at length with him over the years, and to hear someone else go, and I thought, geez, Barmy, so he is firm. And then let's go to 81. Look, one of my favourite memories is you kicking your 600th goal, and Billy Cochran shaking your hand. I thought it was great sportsmanship as you'd taken the mark in front of him at the parade end. You were actually at full forward virtually at that stage, Woody. One of the very few times in your career.
Yeah, mind you, I got dropped the following week.
Yeah, but we won't mention that. But yeah, I just thought it was great. You kicked your 600th, the roar from the crowd. You can tell you were emotional about it on the ground too, and so you bloody should have been. It is one of the great highlights as a Norwood man. And let's not forget, we will come back to that. We do have an end called the Roger Woodcock end at Nord Oval, and I don't think you can get too big a compliments more than that, and I know how much that means to you, Woody, and the Woodcock family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was pretty blown away a few years ago when the president and the board sort of bestowed that upon me, and I just didn't think I deserved that or was worthy of that. But I was very humbled by it, and I was very shocked by it. There's no doubt about that. And going on with that, Ashley, I've been trying to lobby to the club that the northern end, the southern end, should be named the Bruce Schultz end, because he's the greatest kicker in the Norwood Footy Club, and obviously, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Last year. So, and I know that James Fantasia is keen to sort of do that. I mean, there's so much happening at the moment. But I'm sure that will happen, that the southern end will be the Bruce Schultz end. So you'll have the two biggest goal kickers in the Norwood Footy Club, whose ends are named after them.
So it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe I might be wrong, but I don't think 600 goals is going to be, and Bruce kicked 669. I don't think that's going to be in today's modern SNFL footy. The guys aren't going to last long enough.
No way in the world. I reckon you're very safe. I reckon you are very safe with that one, Woody.
And if someone does that, well, that's fantastic. But I think in today's footy, I think it's those two goal kicking records will probably stay at Norwood, I would think. But so I'm really hoping that the club, and I'm sure they will eventually get round to it and do the Bruce Schultz end at the southern end.
Were you happy to get your 600th at the parade?
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't think, because I must admit I was struggling that final year. I had a bit of injury, a bit of illness, couldn't get a kick. And I was on the bench that day that was the second last minor round game of 81. I was on the bench and I got on, and luckily I kicked that goal. And then I got dropped to my final game in 81 of the minor round was in the in reserves against Port down at Footy Park. So I sat up there watching the game, and I think the boys got up. But Peter Lachlan rolled his ankle.
Yes, anyway, that's right. I was trying to think who got injured.
And I didn't think too much of that. I thought, well, my career's, because I was sort of probably going to give it away at the end of 81. And, he rolled his ankle. I didn't think too much about it. Anyway, I thought, well, I played my last game for the club in the twos, unfortunately. Anyway, Sunday night, Barmy rings me up and said, you're going to be in the league side on Saturday against Westies. Oh shit! Well, on the bench, he said, no, I'm going to play you in the starting 18 because of your finals experience. So, I played 24 finals or something. So he's given me a rev up. I trained the house down on the end of the week, and I remember this. I think I kicked one goal the first quarter, and I hit the post. I thought, I'll snag a few today, and that'll put the pressure on the selectors, because we were going to win by 10, which we did. Anyway, I snapped the cruciate in the second quarter, and game over.
Yeah, right in front of the scoreboard.
And career over. But that's footy. And, and I remember sitting up there watching the boys in the 81 preliminary final playing against Glenelg when the wind changed. And the Bays had it for 3 quarters, because they go on and play Port Adelaide in the grand final.
And Woody, Woody, you've always been a part of Norwood Footy Club since you've retired as well. You've been on past player committee and now a big part of the history committee. Always appreciate the photos you send through very quickly when I am writing an article. And that, go through you just to inform people of your involvement and probably explains a bit more your huge Norwood connection.
With the history group?
Yeah, and just since
I'm just losing you a bit there. I think, look, we started the history group, and Michael Colling was a big instigator of it, and he went to Wally Miller, and Wally sort of got the committee up and running, and so that was about 2010 from memory, something like that. And I think Michael asked me in probably that year, but we had about a half a dozen that started the history group committee, which Wally was really, really wrapped in to try and keep all the memorabilia and everything like that goes in with organise a history group. And we preserved a lot of the stuff, and so that was 2010, and we've just grown, as you well know, actually into probably one of the best history groups of the SNFL.
Yep.
And I think our website would be
it's
the best history website in the SNFL.
Oh, keep going, not just SNFL. Keep going, Woody, on that one.
Hang on, I can hardly hear you, mate.
Keep going, not just SNFL, Woody. Luke Reynolds, who I've got a lot of time for, he's a big Collingwood man, but don't hold that against him. But he's very firm that the Norwood site is the best footy site in Australia, and there are people around the traps do enforce that. Real footy people say how good, and full credit to you guys of how good the site is. There's plenty of people around who consider the Norwood website the best football website in the country. So it's something all you guys on the history committee, Winton, Walshy, et cetera, you guys should be immensely proud of.
Yeah, we are. I mean, that website that we developed about 5 or 6 years ago, and a lot of credit to Anthony Harvey.
Yeah, Sir Anthony Harvey was fantastic.
97 premiership side, and that's his go. And when we went and saw him, and he put all this together, and it's just grown and grown and grown with all the information. Like we've got 1,500 guys have played league footy for Norwood, and we've got photos for about 1,400 of them.
Yeah,
and I reckon we've got profiles for about nearly 1,000 footballers that the guys have done work on research and all that sort of gear. So it's a significant, piece of work, and it's getting better, and we're starting to put some action photos in. And now this is all, as you know, actually leading up to hopefully getting a museum and getting some of our memorabilia out on display. And that's happening as we speak now. We're trying to develop a sort of a small type museum under the Western Stand.
Yes. And
that'll be a forerunner to when, and hopefully the club acquire the RSL as a big cultural and learning centre, and a bigger museum will be developed in there. So that's the plans of James Fantasia and the board. So stay tuned in the next probably couple of years, and that'll work out hopefully.
That'll be fantastic.
So should be good.
Now, did I read somewhere that you're a keen cricketer as well?
Electric light cricketer, one of the famous names in South Australia in electric light cricket. Woody?
And I reckon I think it finished in about 2005. So I had 45 years playing electric light cricket, and that was huge back in the 70s. And then it sort of fell away when indoor cricket came in.
Yeah.
Public liability insurance came in, and young kids they were more interested in bowling overarm with a parter ball than bowling underarm with a tennis ball that electric light cricket had. So, but they were good fun, and but we couldn't get any young kids involved, so eventually we couldn't get teams, and eventually there weren't enough teams to make it viable to continue in the early 2000s.
Did I also read that a famous sportsman who we've actually interviewed on this show, Mr. 159, participated in that series?
Wayne Phillips certainly played a lot of electric light cricket. Talking about Flipper, played electric light cricket. It was a big part of it. Woody, now you're played golf at Tea Tree Gully?
Yep. Yeah, I've been a member up there nearly 50 years. That shows how old I'm getting. And, that's a passion of mine. I used to get a bit angry and a bit frustrated like every golfer does, but I must be getting maturer now, mate. I don't get as angry anymore because I just realise I'm a 15 handicapper and that'll do me. I've got to play 15 or 20 bad shots around and I've got to accept it.
No,
I couldn't accept it 20 years ago.
Fair enough.
Now, Woody, you're one of the South Australian greats, the leading half-forward flanker in South Australian footy history. Absolute privilege to have you on the show tonight, Woody, and all the best. And I've got a feeling that the scoreboard this weekend may be barracking for James Ace just a tad.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I've enjoyed it, boys, and thanks for the invite, and we'll catch you around at the club, actually. No worries.
Definitely. Thanks, Woody.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.
We've just been speaking to Roger Woodcock, and that period through the mid-70s was not only a bouncing around time for him, but the Norwood Footy Club really rose from the ashes and scored a very, very good win.
And just wrapped to have Woody on the show. The smooth skills, beautiful kick onto that left foot, or the textbook kick. Might have been where Woody actually stands reasonably close to the scoreboard, and we may yell out as someone misses a goal, get Woodcock on, and get him out of the wheelchair and out there to kick the goal.
Yep.
But yeah, and look, a huge amount of respect for Woody as a person as well.
Absolutely,
he's still heavily involved at Norwood on the history committee and past players wise and all that thing. He's a great football SNFL man.
Absolutely, and we did touch on that during the interview that he is involved with the history committee, and rightly so, that it's starting to get the accolades not only from here within South Australia, but there's other states that are taking notice of what Norwood are doing with their the history committee.
Yeah, and the Redlegs Museum, and Woody mentioned Anthony Harvey's influence, Sir Anthony, the captain from 97 when Macca was suspended, and Harv's been great with that and set a lot of things up. And it is, as Luke Reynolds, the great man, refers to it, it's a lesson for every other club. And he's a big Collingwood man, and he goes on the Norwood site just because he thinks it's a great site.
Yep.
And enjoys looking through things.
Someone that supports the black and white doesn't mind a bit of red and blue. That's unusual.
He may be a little bit of influence this way.
But we thank him for listening, of course, and giving some feedback as we post our episodes as well.